Hello everyone and welcome to a new video from Your Overwatch. I'm Eddie the Chump and today we'll be exploring the concept of hero play versus hero picks and how one can be more important than the other. So what do we mean by this? Well, the basic principle is you can pick a very powerful meta comp or one that's supposedly well balanced, but if you don't play each hero pick correctly or play directly into the enemy team's setup, any hero pick can be massively ineffective. In a lot of ways, hero picks don't determine victory, rather good plays do. There's a misconception among the community to value picks greater than play. Because we all know that team composition is so important to Overwatch, most players are quick to try and look critically at the hero selections being made, typically by other players of course. This instinct is a good one, however oftentimes it seems to discount the state of play as a formality and a foregone conclusion, as if the correct picks simply just win the game by itself. In fact, there is a huge percentage of the game where no pick would matter, because the play was lost based on your own team's misplays trickling in, losing duels, or the enemy making a play on you with picks or ult stacks. Sometimes it's important to stop and think, not just is this comp ideal, but also was comp even relevant to why that fight was lost. Mei and her igloo. As a fun exploration of this, let's talk about Mei. Now, if you're facing a good Mei that's walling off your team and separating your main tank and creating massive problems for you, one might think that the answer is to pick a counter hero specifically to deal with her, or to make swaps that remove her power altogether, like picking dive heroes. But the picks themselves mean nothing. It's the actions that create the win condition. If you take dive heroes but continue to funnel into a small choke, you'll still be playing into the space that she's effective. The pick then is made useless by not understanding the action that should be employed. The pick doesn't make the play for you. The play is to rob her wall of value by making it impossible to effectively split you. That's the win condition, not simply the picks you make. Another example is with the prominence of Symmetra on maps like Numbani, teams regularly pick a load of tanks and funnel into the top left staircase on attack. As Liam pointed out in his How to Counter Symmetra video, this is not the ideal scenario. Yet this is what people do time and time again, because they've made what they see as the most powerful picks, like a triple tank setup, and are astounded it doesn't work as they slowly move past her turrets and get wiped over and over. The same is true of a lot of 2CP maps, like Volskaya for example or Hanamura. The win condition in these choke-heavy first points is not to grindingly face up to map geometry where the defenders have a natural advantage and assume there is no other option. We must win the attritional war of the poke apocalypse. Well, a lot of times, the more you ignore that geometry, the better, as it'll often surprise the defenders and they'll be unprepared. Defending teams will obviously look to make the most out of any edge they can get, and a small entry point will likely be the crux of their plan of defense. But virtually all the maps that have these kill boxes have options to circumvent them, be it windows or ledges or flank routes for airborne heroes. The play to avoid these natural advantages the attackers make matters, not necessarily the picks they make. The Tracer was the problem. Another detail is that players often isolate events in the game and make judgments on them without taking into account the context of the situation. For example, how many times have you been in a scenario whereby the enemy team makes a play with their ults and wipes your team only to hear teammates say, swap out X hero, it's not working. No, in that scenario, they're looking at being wiped, not figuring the amount of resources the enemy team have expended to make that play and thinking any pick would have helped. It wouldn't have. I've been in games with Liam where our team is trickling themselves to a quick loss by never grouping effectively, and someone will say to Liam, swap the Tracer is the problem. No, the problem is we keep getting picked early or don't regroup properly. There is no pick that can correct that, only disciplined play to engage all together at one time. Likewise, picking Tracer against a triple tank setup is remarkably unpopular, especially if your team are trying to do the same. Quite often it's swap the Tracer to Soldier please, but it's not the pick, it's the play Liam or another good Tracer would try to make that would determine its usefulness. Without a flanker or a ranged hero that took good angles, who is going to get to the enemy team's Ana? More tanks? A soldier with an enemy Rhine shield in front of him? With all that HP between you and the hero propping it up, a Tracer that looks to undermine that at every turn by zipping in behind them can win a game. One good pulse bomb and it's all she wrote for Ana. Without her burst healing, tanks are just, well, tanks. People think it's the hero picks that are the strategy. In some cases, people will just take 3 tanks and omit Roadhog and call it triple tank. But using Roadhog, at least at the pro level, is kind of the whole point. To use him to burst down specific things at the right time, while having the protection of burst healing and large health pools. It's the play that matters. It's the Roadhog getting value that makes it powerful. It's not just pick 3 things with a lot of health and win. This is evident in people calling for more standard picks, when already losing against a non-standard setup. The call of "we're not playing meta enough" while taking a beating from an unorthodox setup shows that people think the picks are the determining factor, when instead it's the plays that are being made, or not, as the case may be, that are the causal factors in your loss. If a team is playing double flanker and Lucio Zen against you and they're winning, the answer isn't pick more tanks or play more standard. Likewise, if a team has adapted against your triple tank and gone single healer with more weight to DPS, and they're killing your supports quicker than you can defend them, then you will have to make an adaptation in response. You will most likely have to swap some picks, yes, but it's the plays you make to counter their increased squishiness that will win out. The key to understanding picks are to frame them as tools to do a job, rather than a paint-by-numbers solution to winning. All the heroes are available at all times. If you understand where their strengths lie, those options are always at your disposal. If, however, you make picks based off a superficial grasp of what's good, you can become blind to the actual state of play within a game. It's a mistake to focus more heavily on the metagame than the actual game in front of you. If, for example, a Rein isn't initiating fights properly, he'll collect shielding stats but not wins. So an effective Rein doesn't do what he's supposed to. The meta-ness of his pick means nothing, and the knock-on effects on the team will spawn misplays, as they're expecting Rein to fulfill his role and play accordingly. If that happens, it may be best to pick creatively to solve problems you're facing directly, instead of metaing yourself to death. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like. If you'd like us to talk about anything specific, please don't hesitate to leave it in the comment section below. Also, please follow the Your Overwatch Twitter. It's where you can find updates about new videos and streams. I've been Eddie the Chump, and until next time,